According to the theory of evolution, all beings evolve over the course of generations through a process of natural selection. Adaptation is the mechanism whereby an organism becomes better suited to deal with changing habitats. As a species, human beings have now reached a critical juncture. We have entered the age of adaptation.
We're in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
An economic crisis of global scope.
Pour que la crise ne fasse pas souffrir davantage les entreprises du CAC 40.
The crisis that occurred in the United States may have an impact that will affect the whole world.
The speed of the crisis development beats every record.
There is no one country that can solve this crisis on its own.
It constitutes a full-blown crisis.
Our leaders acted immediately to respond to the economic crisis, yet international plans to tackle climate change have always been delayed. Indeed, our model of development is based on systematic exploitation of natural resources. We do not create wealth, we simply turn natural resources into money. In doing so, we have inflated our planet with carbon dioxide, thinking that sooner or later it would go away, but it didn't work.
Most of our activity, because it's fossil fuel powered, must be unsustainable. It can't continue forever. We can't continue to find fossil fuel forever. And even if we could, there's now deep concerns that the climate, the atmosphere, cannot assimilate that level of waste.
In the past century, most countries have developed by increasing their level of CO2 emissions due to the exploitation of natural resources. Since the 1950s, developing countries as well have embraced the same approach, thereby emitting growing quantities of CO2 before being able to see progress in terms of national wealth. The rationale behind this process was the complete trust and continuous economic growth, represented by one single indicator, the gross domestic product, also known as GDP. The GDP was invented in the 1940s to measure the value of goods and services produced in a country. Ever since, politicians have spread the mantra of GDP as a supreme goal of social and economic development. From industrialized nations, this enthusiasm rapidly spread to developing countries.
We'd have to make the country grow. And that is exactly what is happening in Brazil.
Our GDP grew by 9%. When China, a large developing country, runs its affairs well, it can help restore confidence in global economic growth.
That the long-term outlook for India's economy remains strong and robust, a 9% growth trajectory.
But what does GDP tell us about well-being? Simon Kuznets, the economist who developed the GDP formula, was the first one to warn against misusing his indicator. He argued that the welfare of a nation can scarcely be inferred from a measure of national income. and that distinctions must be kept in mind between quantity and quality of growth. More growth of what and for what?